the structure cleaner.
Okay. And something about the agent case, hookah.
Confirmed its use for subjects of active verbs, specifically mentioning havi, to have, as an example, just ensuring clarity on who's doing what.
Right. And a whole new type of adjective was formally brought in, possessives.
That's right. They formally adopted the reflexive possessive sia, S-I-A, that means his own, her own, its own, or their own, referring back to the subject of the sentence.
Ah, like she loves her own cat.
Exactly. And it was adopted alongside the other standard possessives, o mia, my, via, your, etc. An important note is sia agrees in number. It takes a GJ if the noun it modifies is plural.
Got it. Okay, so grammar rules clarified, vocabulary expanding. Sounds like a good moment to consolidate everything.
And that's what happened. The sources mentioned creating a consolidated vocabulary list. They called it a pamphlet, documenting Alien Gloss v2.6 as it stood on Monday, April 14th, 2025. A snapshot in time.
A reference document. And it was structured.
Very structured. Two main sections, functional morphemes and lexical roots.
The grammar bits and the content words.
Precisely. And the functional morphemes part was broken down even further.
Yeah?
Categories like case suffixes, tamey affixes, that's tense, aspect, mood, evidentiality.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Voice mood suffixes, core word endings like the O for nouns, derivational affixes like mal or ej, pronouns, question words, particles, conjunctions.
That's comprehensive.
It really is. Interestingly, they included common prepositions but marked them as tentative, maybe still deciding how much they'd rely on them versus the case suffixes.
And the lexical roots section.
That categorized the actual words. Verbs, nouns, which they subdivided into people, environment, objects, abstracts, adjectives, and adverbs.
So this pamphlet is like the official state of the language at that point. And the work didn't stop there. More adjectives.
Yes, they moved on to derive more basic adjective pairs, like simple and complex.
How do they approach that?
Started with a root simple. From that, they got simpla, simple the adjective, simplo, maybe a simple thing, a noun, simple, simply the adverb, and even simplogy, to simplify a verb.
A whole family of words from one root.
Exactly. And then for complex, they just used the mal prefix again. Mal simpla. Simple, right.
Yeah, very logical. What other pairs?
Open and closed. For open, they use the root malfer to get malfera, adjective, malferi, verb to open, and malferita, opened the past participle adjective.
Okay, and closed.
A separate root, fermit, gave fermita, closed adjective, and fermi, verb to close.
It's really like that linguistic construction kit idea, roots and affixes combining in predictable ways.
It really is. That's the beauty of this kind of systematic construction.
Now, earlier we mentioned the plan for happy, sass, fast, slow. Were those confirmed?
Yes, the sources confirm those were formally adopted, using the roots felis for happy, trist for sad, and rapid giving rapida fast, and malrapida slow.
Excellent. So the expressive vocabulary is growing nicely, and those base adverbs we listed out before, also formally adopted.
That's right. A whole list got the official stamp. Baldar, tuj, sempre, iam, neniam, ofte, malofte.
Mordecai, tomorrow. Hierashi, yesterday. Wait, was there a correction there?
Ah, yes, good catch. The text notes a correction to hierashi from maybe an earlier typo or thought. Then hodie today, nur, jam, ankorai. The question adverbs ki, where kiam, when, kiel, why, kiel, how, plus tere, evidente, evidently, and for away. All formally in.
Okay, a solid set of adverbs now official. Where did the vocabulary expansion focus next?
Phase 2 began focusing on common objects, starting with food items too.
More food? Always practical. What was the strategy?
Mostly using international words, often drawing from Esperanto, but adapting them to fit Alien Gloss's own sound system and structure.
Okay, examples.
Sure. Apple comes from the root pom, giving the noun pomo, P-O.kumo.
Simple enough.
For orange, the fruit, they did something clever. Oranja fructo, literally, orange fruit, using the adjective for the color plus the word for fruit. Avoids confusion with the color itself.
Smart, okay.
Banana is bananoba na, from banan. Cheese, from frama, got adapted slightly to from maho, from emedo, probably for phonetic reasons.
Fitting the language's sounds.
Exactly. Then straightforward ones.
Okay.
Tio, T-E-O, tea, from tea, kafo ge coffee, from kaf, sukuro, suke oro, from sucre, and salo, S-A-O-lo, salt, from sal.
Common kitchen staples.
Yeah.
And they noted potential derivations, too.
Yeah, like adjectives poma, apple you, tea, sala, salty, and even verbs like sali, to salt something, sukari, to sugar something, building out related words.
So steadily adding everyday vocabulary. And the very next step mentioned was returning to place nouns.
Exactly, a recap almost. Reaffirming the plan to derive those basic place nouns. Urbo, city; lando, country; monto, mountain; rivero, voeuro, road; maro, sea. Really cementing that foundational location vocabulary.
It's just, wow, it's fascinating watching this methodical construction, seeing the layers build up, the refinements happen.
It really gives you an appreciation for the sheer amount of thought and systematic effort that goes into building a language, even a constructed one, from the ground up. It's not trivial.
Absolutely. So just to wrap up our deep dive here on Alien Gloss V2.6, we've seen this really structured grammar in action, haven't we? With case suffixes, affixes doing heavy lifting.
Definitely. And we saw the process of expanding vocabulary using roots, using consistent derivation patterns like mal and eo, plus that ongoing refinement like tweaking the adverb and preposition interactions.
It really is a shortcut, like we hoped for you listening, to understand the nuts and bolts of language construction, seeing
Yeah.
it laid out like this.
And it really drives home that a language is a system, you know? Grammar and words aren't separate things. They grow and influence each other constantly.
So here's something to maybe chew on after this. How might a language structured like Alien Gloss with its uh, agglutinative nature, its case system, how might that actually shape the way its speakers think or see the world?
That's the big question, isn't it? Could a language consciously designed like this enable different perspectives, different ways of framing reality compared to, say, English or Japanese?
What unique thoughts become easier or harder to express? It really makes you think about language not just as a tool, but as something that shapes the user.
It does. Thinking about the systematic creation process certainly gives you a new appreciation for the complexities and maybe even the quirks of the languages we use every day without thinking about it.
And hey, if this look at Alien Gloss has got you intrigued by language itself, maybe dip your toes into linguistics, or look up the history of other constructed languages like Esperanto or Klingon. There's a whole world there.
A fascinating world. Well, that wraps up our exploration for today.
Thanks for joining us on this linguistic deep dive.